Sophia's tiny hand slipped from her father's grip as she ran toward the waitress with the warm smile. Lorenzo Castellano, the most feared man in New York, watched in shock as his 5-year-old daughter wrapped her arms around a complete stranger's legs. "I want her to be my new mommy," Sophia whispered loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear. The waitress's eyes widened, her cheeks flushing pink as every head in Bella Vista turned toward them. Lorenzo's jaw clenched, his hand instinctively moving toward his jacket, but then he saw something that stopped him cold. For the first time in 3 years, since the accident that took his wife, his daughter's eyes were sparkling with pure joy. The young waitress knelt down to Sophia's level, speaking in gentle Italian that made his daughter giggle, a sound he thought he'd never hear again. In that moment, Lorenzo realized his carefully controlled world was about to change forever. If you want to discover how this unexpected encounter transformed the life of New York's most dangerous man and brought healing to a broken family, subscribe to the channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Every view helps bring more heartwarming stories like this one. 3 hours earlier, Lorenzo Castellano sat in his penthouse office overlooking Manhattan, staring at the calendar on his mahogany desk. October 15th, the anniversary of the day his world shattered. 3 years ago, Isabella had been driving home from Sophia's dance recital when a drunk driver ran a red light. The impact killed her instantly, leaving Lorenzo to raise their daughter alone in a world where showing weakness could mean death. "Boss?" Marco, his right-hand man, knocked on the door. Sophia's nanny called in sick again. 3rd time this month. Lorenzo's jaw tightened. The nannies never lasted long. Sophia had become increasingly withdrawn, refusing to bond with anyone who tried to fill the void her mother left behind. At 5 years old, she barely spoke anymore, spending most of her time drawing pictures of angels that looked suspiciously like Isabella. "Cancel my meetings," Lorenzo said, loosening his black tie. "I'll take her to dinner." An hour later, Lorenzo walked into the modest apartment he kept separate from his mansion, a safe space where Sophia could have some semblance of a normal childhood. He found her sitting on her bed, clutching a worn teddy bear that still smelled faintly of Isabella's perfume. "Principessa," he said softly, kneeling beside her, "how about we go out for dinner, just you and me?" Sophia looked up with those huge brown eyes that mirrored his own. "Can we go to the place with the pretty lights, where Mommy used to take me?" Lorenzo's chest tightened. She meant Bella Vista, a small family-owned Italian restaurant in Little Italy where Isabella used to take Sophia for special occasions. He'd avoided it for 3 years, but seeing the first spark of interest in his daughter's eyes in months, he couldn't refuse. "Of course, amore. Get your coat." Bella Vista hadn't changed. The same warm lighting, the same checkered tablecloths, the same smell of garlic and fresh basil that reminded him painfully of Isabella. Lorenzo chose a corner table where his bodyguards could maintain a clear view of all entrances while staying discreet. Sophia sat quietly, swinging her legs and looking around with curious eyes. "Daddy, it smells like Mommy's cooking." "Yes, it does," Lorenzo murmured, his throat tight. That's when she appeared. Mia Grace Sullivan moved between tables with natural grace, her auburn hair catching the warm light, as she laughed with an elderly couple. She wore the restaurant's simple black uniform, but there was something luminous about her, a warmth that seemed to radiate from within. When she approached their table, Lorenzo noticed how her green eyes immediately softened as they landed on Sophia. "Good evening," Mia said, her voice melodic. "Welcome to Bella Vista. I'm Mia, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." Sophia stared up at her with wide eyes, and Lorenzo saw something he hadn't seen in 3 years, genuine curiosity, replacing the constant sadness. "What's your name, sweetheart?" Mia asked, crouching down to Sophia's eye level. "Sophia," his daughter whispered, then added shyly, "You're pretty like my mommy was." Lorenzo's breath caught. Mia's expression grew tender, and she didn't offer empty platitudes or awkward sympathy like most people did when Sophia mentioned Isabella. "Sophia is such a beautiful name," Mia said instead. "It means wisdom, you know, and I bet you're very wise for such a little lady." Sophia's face lit up, the first genuine smile Lorenzo had seen from her in months. "I know some Italian words. Nonna Isabella taught me before she went to heaven." "Really? That's wonderful. Would you like to practice with me? I speak Italian too." "Sì, posso avere un gelato?" Sophia asked hopefully. Mia laughed, a sound like silver bells. Dopo la cena, piccola principessa. After dinner, little princess. Lorenzo felt his world tilt. Not only was this waitress speaking perfect Italian with his daughter, but Sofia was responding with more animation than she'd shown in years. The way Mia looked at Sofia, with genuine affection rather than pity, stirred something in his chest he'd thought died with Isabella. "And for you, sir?" Mia asked, turning to Lorenzo. Their eyes met, and he saw her breath catch slightly. He was used to that reaction. His reputation preceded him in most of Manhattan, but instead of fear, he saw curiosity and something that looked almost like concern as her gaze flickered between him and Sofia. "The osso buco," he said, his voice rougher than intended. "And whatever she wants." "I want spaghetti with the little meatballs," Sofia announced. "And can Mia eat with us? She seems lonely too." Lorenzo's eyes snapped to his daughter. "Too? Did Sofia think he was lonely?" Mia's cheeks flushed pink. "Oh, sweetheart, I have to work, but I'll check on you lots, okay?" As Mia walked away, Lorenzo watched Sofia's gaze follow her with something approaching adoration. His daughter had always been intuitive, able to sense things adults missed. If Sofia was drawn to this woman, there had to be a reason. Throughout dinner, Mia checked on them frequently, always taking time to chat with Sofia in Italian, asking about her drawings, listening with genuine interest to her stories about dance class and her pet goldfish. Each interaction brought more life to Sofia's eyes, and Lorenzo found himself studying this young woman, who seemed to have an almost magical effect on his daughter. "Daddy," Sofia said as they finished their meal, "I like her. She makes me feel warm inside, like when Mummy used to read me stories." Lorenzo's heart clenched. "She seems very nice, Principessa. Can we come back tomorrow?" Before Lorenzo could answer, Mia appeared with a small gelato for Sofia, complete with a tiny paper umbrella. "For the most beautiful little customer I've had all week," she said, setting it down with a flourish. Sofia clapped her hands in delight, then looked up at Mia with those serious brown eyes. "Will you be here tomorrow? I want to show you my drawings of angels." "I work every day except Sundays," Mia said gently. "I'd love to see your drawings." As they prepared to leave, Sofia suddenly stood on her chair and threw her arms around Mia's waist. "Thank you for being nice to me," she whispered. Lorenzo watched Mia's face transform with emotion as she hugged his daughter back. "Thank you for brightening my whole day, sweet Sofia." Walking to the car, Sofia slipped her hand into Lorenzo's, something she rarely did anymore. "Daddy, I think the angels sent her to us." Lorenzo looked back at the restaurant, where Mia stood in the window, waving goodbye to Sofia with a smile that made his chest tight. For the first time in 3 years, his daughter had connected with someone. And for the first time since Isabella's death, Lorenzo felt something other than rage and grief stirring in his heart. The next evening, Lorenzo found himself driving back to Bella Vista, telling himself it was only because Sofia had asked. She'd spent the entire day drawing pictures specifically to show the nice lady with the pretty smile, and had even put on her favorite dress, a yellow sundress Isabella had bought her that she hadn't worn since the funeral. "Is Mia working tonight, Daddy?" Sofia asked from her car seat, clutching a folder of drawings. "I don't know, Principessa. We'll see." But Lorenzo had already called ahead, using his connections to confirm Mia's schedule. He told himself it was just due diligence, making sure his daughter wouldn't be disappointed. It had nothing to do with the way Mia's laugh had echoed in his mind all day, or how her genuine kindness to Sofia had stirred something he'd thought was buried forever. Mia's face lit up when she saw them walk in. "Sofia, you came back. I brought you pictures," Sofia announced, practically bouncing with excitement. Lorenzo requested the same corner table, watching as Mia knelt beside Sofia's chair to examine each drawing with the seriousness of an art critic. His daughter explained each angel in detail. This one was Mommy, that one was Nonna, this one was watching over Daddy when he was sad. "This one is you," Sofia said, pointing to a figure with long hair and a big smile. "I drew you as an angel because you made me happy." Lorenzo saw Mia's eyes fill with tears. She quickly blinked away. "That's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me, Sofia. Can I keep this one?" "Really, you want to keep it?" "I want to put it somewhere special, where I can see it every day." Lorenzo found himself studying Mia as she interacted with his daughter. There was nothing forced about her affection. It was as natural as breathing. She listened to Sofia's chatter about school and dance class with genuine interest, asked thoughtful questions, and somehow managed to coax more words out of his daughter in one evening than most people heard in a month. "Mia," Sophia said suddenly, "do you have a little girl?" "No, sweetheart, I don't have any children. Do you want one? Because I think you'd be a really good mommy." Lorenzo nearly choked on his wine. Mia's cheeks flushed, but she answered seriously, "I think being a mommy would be wonderful someday. Why do you ask?" "Because I don't have a mommy anymore, and you don't have a little girl. Maybe we could share." The innocence of the statement hit Lorenzo like a physical blow. Mia's eyes found his across the table, and he saw his own mixture of pain and hope reflected there. "Sophia," he said gently, "Mia has her own life, her own family." "Actually," Mia interrupted softly, "I don't have much family. My parents died when I was young, and my grandmother raised me. She passed away last year." She looked at Sophia with tender eyes. "So, I think sharing sounds like a wonderful idea." After dinner, as Lorenzo prepared to leave, Sophia suddenly grabbed Mia's hand. "Can you come to our house sometime? I want to show you my room and my fish and my mommy's garden." Lorenzo tensed. No one came to his home. It was too dangerous, too exposing. But before he could refuse, he saw the hope shining in Sophia's eyes and felt his resolve crumble. "Sophia," he began carefully, "Mia is very busy." "I'd love to see your room," Mia said, looking at Lorenzo questioningly. "If it's okay with your daddy, of course." Lorenzo found himself nodding before his brain could engage. "Saturday afternoon? I could send a car. I can take the subway." "No." The word came out sharper than intended, and he saw Mia's eyes widen slightly. Lorenzo forced his voice to soften. "I insist, 2 o'clock?" That Saturday, Lorenzo paced his penthouse like a caged animal. He'd had his security team run a complete background check on Mia Grace Sullivan, something that should have felt routine, but instead made him feel guilty. She was exactly who she appeared to be, a 24-year-old education student working her way through college, no criminal record, no dangerous associations. An ordinary girl living an ordinary life, which made her presence in his world feel both precious and terrifying. When Mia arrived, Sophia practically dragged her through the apartment, chattering excitedly about everything from her goldfish to her collection of music boxes. Lorenzo followed at a distance, watching Mia's genuine reactions to Sophia's treasures. "This was Mommy's favorite," Sophia said, opening a delicate music box that played a soft lullaby. "Daddy says she's watching over us, but sometimes I forget what her voice sounded like." Mia knelt beside Sophia, her voice gentle. "I bet if you close your eyes and listen really carefully to your heart, you can still hear her telling you how much she loves you." Sophia closed her eyes tight, a small smile crossing her face. "I can hear her. She says she's proud of me for making a new friend." Lorenzo felt his throat close up. He stepped onto the balcony for air, gripping the railing as he fought for control. A few minutes later, he heard soft footsteps behind him. "She's an amazing little girl," Mia said quietly, joining him at the railing. "You're doing a wonderful job with her." "Am I?" Lorenzo's voice was rough. "She barely spoke for 2 years. I was starting to think—" He couldn't finish the sentence. "Grief affects children differently than adults," Mia said. "She wasn't ready to let anyone in before. But she's ready now. Because of you." Mia shook her head. "Because she's healing. I just happened to be there when she was ready to try again." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city spread out below them. Lorenzo found himself studying her profile, the gentle curve of her cheek, the way the wind caught her hair. She was beautiful, but it was more than that. There was a peace about her that called to something deep in his soul. "Mia," he said suddenly, "would you consider coming by more often? Sophia asks about you constantly, and I think it would be good for her to have a female influence in her life." Mia turned to look at him, and Lorenzo saw understanding in her green eyes. "I'd like that very much." "Daddy! Mia!" Sophia's voice called from inside. "Come see! I'm teaching Mia how to make Mommy's favorite cookies." As they walked back inside together, Lorenzo felt something shift in his chest. For 3 years his world had been painted in shades of grey, but watching Sophia laugh as she and Mia measured flour, seeing the way Mia's presence brought light back into his daughter's eyes, Lorenzo began to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was still room for colour in their lives. 3 weeks later, Mia had become a fixture in their lives. She came by twice a week, always bringing something special: art supplies, children's books in Italian, or ingredients for simple recipes she and Sophia could make together. Lorenzo found himself rearranging his schedule around these visits, telling himself it was for Sophia's sake while knowing the truth was more complicated. He'd catch himself watching Mia from his office doorway as she helped Sophia with homework at the kitchen table, her patient voice explaining math problems with the same care she used to discuss Sophia's drawings. Or he'd find them curled up on the couch reading together, Sophia's head on Mia's shoulder, as they worked through an Italian children's book, and feel his chest tighten with emotions he wasn't ready to name. "Daddy, look!" Sophia called one evening, running into his office with a paper crown made of construction paper and glitter. "Mia made me a princess crown!" Lorenzo looked up from his laptop to see Mia standing in the doorway, her cheeks flushed from laughing, a streak of glitter across her nose. She wore jeans and a soft sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, and Lorenzo thought she'd never looked more beautiful. "It's magnificent, Principessa," he said, lifting Sophia onto his lap. "Fit for a true princess. Mia says every little girl is a princess in her heart," Sophia announced, "and every daddy is a king who protects his princess." Lorenzo's eyes met Mia's over Sophia's head, and he saw something warm and understanding there that made his pulse quicken. "Your daddy is definitely a king," Mia said softly. "He loves you very much." Later, after Sophia had gone to bed, Lorenzo found Mia cleaning up the craft supplies in the kitchen. He leaned against the doorframe, watching her efficient movements, the way she hummed softly under her breath. "You don't have to clean up," he said. "Maria will take care of it in the morning." Mia looked up with a smile. "I don't mind. Besides, I made most of the mess." Lorenzo moved closer, close enough to catch the faint scent of her perfume, something light and floral that reminded him of spring mornings. "Mia, I need to ask you something." She turned to face him fully, and Lorenzo found himself momentarily distracted by the way the kitchen lights brought out the gold flecks in her green eyes. "Do you understand what I do for a living?" Mia's hands stilled on the art supplies. "I know you're involved in business that most people would consider dangerous, and that doesn't frighten you." She was quiet for a long moment, considering her words. "What frightens me is the thought of Sophia growing up without the love and guidance she deserves. What frightens me is seeing such a beautiful little girl lose her spark because she's lost too much already." She met his eyes directly. "What you do for work, that's your business. But the way you love your daughter, the way you do anything to protect her, that's the man I see." Lorenzo felt something crack open in his chest. "You're not afraid of me." "Should I be?" The question hung between them, loaded with meaning. Lorenzo stepped closer, close enough that he could see the rapid pulse at her throat, close enough to touch if he dared. "I've done things, Mia. Terrible things. I've made choices that most people would never forgive." "We all have things in our past we're not proud of," she said quietly. "But I've watched you with Sophia. I've seen how gentle you are with her, how patient. That's who you really are." "You see too much," Lorenzo murmured, his voice rough. "Maybe you don't see enough." The air between them crackled with tension. Lorenzo found himself reaching up to brush a strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering against her cheek. Mia's breath caught, but she didn't pull away. "Mia," he whispered, and her name on his lips sounded like a prayer. "Daddy?" Sophia's sleepy voice broke the spell. They sprang apart as his daughter appeared in the kitchen doorway, clutching her teddy bear. "I had a bad dream." "Come here, amore," Lorenzo said, scooping Sophia into his arms. "What was the dream about?" "The angels went away and left us alone again," Sophia whispered against his neck. Lorenzo's heart clenched. "The angels aren't going anywhere, Principessa. They're always watching over us. Even Mia Angel." Lorenzo's eyes found Mia's over Sophia's head, especially Mia Angel. Mia stepped forward, gently stroking Sophia's hair. "I'm not going anywhere, sweet girl, I promise. Can you sing the lullaby Mommy used to sing, the one in Italian?" Mia's voice was soft and melodic as she began to sing Stella Stellina, the same lullaby Isabella used to sing to Sophia. Lorenzo felt tears prick his eyes as he watched his daughter relax in his arms, comforted by this woman who had somehow become essential to their lives in such a short time. After putting Sophia back to bed, Lorenzo walked Mia to the door. They stood in the foyer, the weight of what had almost happened in the kitchen hanging between them. "Lorenzo," Mia said softly, "I need you to know that whatever this is between us, Sophia comes first, always." "I know," he replied. "That's one of the things I He caught himself. the word hanging unspoken in the air. Mia's eyes widened slightly, and Lorenzo saw his own feelings reflected there. The growing attachment, the careful hope, the fear of wanting something that seemed too good to be true. "I should go," she whispered, but made no move toward the door. "Stay," Lorenzo said, the word escaping before he could stop it. "I mean, it's late. I could have Marco drive you home, or you could take the guest room." "I should go," Mia repeated, but her voice was softer now, uncertain. Lorenzo stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup her face. "Mia, The sound of his phone buzzing with an urgent message broke the moment. Lorenzo glanced at the screen and cursed under his breath. Emergency meeting. Rival family making moves. "I have to go," he said, his voice tight with frustration and something that looked like fear. "Business." Mia nodded, understanding flickering in her eyes. "Be careful." As Lorenzo watched her leave, he realized that for the first time in 3 years, he had something to lose again, and that terrified him more than any enemy ever could. The call came at 2:47 a.m. Lorenzo jerked awake to his phone buzzing insistently on the nightstand. Marco's name flashed on the screen, and Lorenzo's blood ran cold. Marco never called this late unless someone was dead or about to be. "Talk," Lorenzo answered, already reaching for his clothes. "Boss, we got a problem." The Rossi family grabbed the girl. Lorenzo's world stopped. "What girl?" "The waitress. Mia Sullivan. They took her from her apartment 20 minutes ago. Left a message." The phone slipped from Lorenzo's suddenly numb fingers. This was his worst nightmare. His world bleeding into the life of someone innocent, someone who mattered to Sophia, someone who had come to matter to him more than he'd allowed himself to admit. He called his head of security while pulling on his shirt. "Where's Sophia?" "Safe. She's here with Maria. Boss, they want to meet. Neutral ground. They're using the girl as leverage for the docks deal." Lorenzo's vision went red. The Rossi family had been trying to muscle in on his shipping operations for months, and now they'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. They'd touched what was his. "Set it up," Lorenzo said, his voice deadly calm, "and get me everything we have on their operations. Everything." An hour later, Lorenzo sat across from Vincent Rossi in an abandoned warehouse, every muscle in his body coiled with barely contained violence. Mia sat in a chair between them, her hands zip-tied behind her back, a piece of duct tape over her mouth. Her eyes were wide with fear, but when they met his, he saw something that nearly broke him. Trust. Even now, even terrified and helpless, she trusted him to save her. "She's pretty," Vincent said casually, lighting a cigarette. "I can see why you'd want to keep her around. Good with kids, I hear." Lorenzo's hands clenched into fists. "You have 30 seconds to tell me what you want before I paint these walls with your blood." "The docs, Lorenzo. Sign them over, and the girl goes home unharmed." "Refuse," Vincent shrugged. "Well, accidents happen." "You're making a mistake, Vincent. A very big mistake." "Am I?" "Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like the great Lorenzo Castellano has developed a weakness. And weaknesses can be exploited." Lorenzo stood slowly, his movement predatory. "That woman is under my protection. Touching her is the same as declaring war on my family. Then maybe it's time for a war." The next few minutes were a blur of violence. Lorenzo's men, positioned strategically around the warehouse, moved with lethal precision. When the smoke cleared, Vincent Rossi was on his knees, blood streaming from his nose, his remaining men either dead or unconscious. Lorenzo knelt beside Mia's chair, his hands gentle as he removed the tape from her mouth and cut her restraints. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "I'm okay," she whispered, her voice shaky but strong. "Lorenzo, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." "This isn't your fault," he said fiercely, helping her to her feet. "None of this is your fault." As they left the warehouse, Lorenzo made a decision that would change everything. He couldn't keep living in two worlds, couldn't keep pretending that his feelings for Mia were just about Sophia's happiness, but he also couldn't keep putting her in danger. Back at his penthouse, Lorenzo paced his office while Mia sat on the couch, wrapped in one of his sweaters, sipping tea that Maria had pressed into her hands. Sophia was still asleep, unaware of the night's events, and Lorenzo intended to keep it that way. "I have to ask you to leave," he said finally, the words feeling like glass in his throat. Mia looked up sharply. "What?" "Tonight proved what I've known all along. My world is too dangerous. Being close to me, to Sophia, it puts you at risk. I can't—" His voice broke slightly. "I can't lose someone else I care about." Mia set down her tea and stood, crossing to where he stood by the window. "Lorenzo, look at me." Reluctantly, he turned to face her, and the determination in her eyes surprised him. "Do you think I don't know the risks? Do you think I'm some naive little girl who doesn't understand what your life entails?" "Mia, I'm not finished." Her voice was stronger now, more certain. "Yes, tonight was terrifying. Yes, I was scared. But do you know what scared me most? The thought that I might never see Sophia again, that I might never get to tell her how much she means to me, that I might never get to tell you." She paused, taking a shaky breath. "Tell me what?" Lorenzo asked softly. "That I love you, both of you. Sophia has become the daughter of my heart. And you've become everything I never knew I was looking for." Lorenzo felt his carefully constructed walls crumble. "Mia, you don't understand. If you stay, if you become part of this family, there's no going back. My enemies will always see you as a target. Sophia will always be at risk. I will always be looking over my shoulder, wondering if today is the day I lose everything again. Then we'll be careful, we'll be smart, but we won't let fear win." Mia stepped closer, her hand coming up to rest over his heart. "Lorenzo, I've spent my whole life playing it safe, keeping people at arm's length because I was afraid of getting hurt again. But Sophia taught me something. Love is worth the risk. You're worth the risk. And if something happens to you, if my choices put you in danger again, then we'll face it together, as a family." The word hung between them, full of promise and possibility. Lorenzo reached up to cup her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears he hadn't realized she was crying. "I love you," he whispered, the words feeling foreign but right on his tongue. "God help me. I love you so much it terrifies me." "Then don't let fear win," Mia whispered back. "Choose love. Choose us." Lorenzo kissed her then, pouring 3 years of grief and loneliness and desperate hope into the contact. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "Marry me," he said suddenly, the words surprising them both. Mia's eyes widened. "Lorenzo, I know it's crazy. I know it's too fast. But I've lost too much time already, wasted too many years being afraid. Marry me, Mia. Be Sophia's mother. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you and loving you the way you deserve." "Yes," she whispered, and then louder. "Yes, yes, yes. Daddy? Mia?" They turned to see Sophia standing in the doorway, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Why are you awake? Is everything okay?" Lorenzo scooped his daughter into his arms, holding both his girls close. "Everything is perfect, Principessa. Mia is going to be part of our family now. Forever." Sophia's face lit up with pure joy. "Really? She's going to be my new mommy?" "If you want me to be," Mia said softly, stroking Sophia's hair. "I wished for this every night," Sophia whispered. "I told the angels I wanted a new mommy who would love us both." Lorenzo felt tears slip down his cheeks as he held his family, his real, complete family, in his arms. After 3 years of darkness, the angels had finally answered his daughter's prayers. 2 years later, Mia stood in the garden of their estate, watching Sophia chase butterflies among the roses Isabella had planted. The little girl wore a white dress with a flower crown, practicing for her role as flower girl in next week's wedding ceremony, a small intimate affair with just family and close friends. "Mia, Mia, look," Sophia called, holding up a caterpillar she'd found. "It's going to turn into a butterfly, just like how you turned into our angel." Lorenzo appeared behind Mia, wrapping his arms around her waist and pressing a kiss to her temple. "Having second thoughts about marrying into this crazy family?" Mia leaned back against his chest, her hand moving instinctively to the small bump barely visible beneath her flowing dress, a secret they'd share with Sophia after the wedding. "Never. This is exactly where I belong." "Daddy, Mia, come see the baby butterflies." As they walked hand in hand toward Sophia, Lorenzo marveled at how completely his life had changed. The little girl who had once chosen a waitress over dessert had chosen correctly. She'd chosen love, healing, and the beginning of their beautiful forever. Sometimes the best things in life came disguised as ordinary moments in small Italian restaurants.